Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Knowmads podcast. I'm your co-host Bhavya.
And I'm your co-host Prachi.
During the academic stages of our lives, we spend most of our time developing tools and skills that aid our research and problem-solving ability. And this is true for all fields of study. Now, most students think that this is it. This is how you can essentially get your dream position. Well, what is often missed are the soft skills that are absolutely crucial to provide us that edge over others when applying for jobs. Our guest today is almost at the end of his PhD and has effectively picked up on some of these skills throughout his journey, and we understood the essence of sharing it with the world. It was truly an honest and candid conversation with a lot of perspectives, and I hope you enjoy it.
Aymen, welcome to the Knowmads podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So when one finds themselves in a position that they want to start doing their PhD, the one thing that they focus on is developing skills related to their field. So for example, when we were starting our PhDs and we were deciding where to go and everything, because we wanted to do theoretical physics, we were focusing on things like quantum field theory, group theory, and stuff like that. But what one finds out when they're in the PhD and when they're pursuing this journey, what one finds out is that those are not the complete set of skills that you need to have. There are some skills that are never advertised and in fact not even talked about even when you're developing them. So let's just start by you telling us what are those skills and maybe just tell us why we need them.
Okay, so there are a lot of skills that come up in how you present yourself, I guess. So let's start by focusing on what you said, that you focus on the skills, like if you're learning physics or things like that. And the kind of idea that we have is, okay, I learned 90 physics, someone else learned 92 physics, another person learned 95 physics, and then at the end of the day, the job person will look at the numbers and he'll pick the best 5 or 6 or whatever, however, okay? But the reality is that speaking in terms of physics terms, there is a very large degeneracy. So what will happen is there will be a lot of people bunched together at the same level, okay?
Right.
And it's very, very difficult, no matter how good you are, how good your employer is, very, very difficult to separate yourself from that group, okay? So there will be someone, so for example, speaking in condensed matter theory, like very niche, 5 or 6 papers at a PhD is a pretty decent number. There will be people who will have 10, 15 papers, 20 papers, okay? For them, having and acquiring these soft skills is not as important. But in that degenerate space, if you want to break through that degeneracy, you need to have. So let me give you a concrete example. Recently, University of Houston was hiring condensed matter theory faculty.
Right. Yeah.
There were 6 people, I think 6 or 7 people who were shortlisted. And when I read the qualifications of them, I was like, how can anyone possibly distinguish between any of them? Okay,
Between the amount they've achieved in their career.
So like there was this one professor, I'm not going to take any names. There was this one professor who had done her postdoc, who is a postdoc at Harvard currently. She's probably, there's a Subir Sachdev and Ashwin Vishwanath, famous professors. They usually have one joint postdoc, and it's probably considered the most prestigious postdoc in America. in my opinion. Of course, that's condensed matter theory postdoc. She's that, okay? Another one.
And she's that postdoc.
She's that postdoc. Okay. Another one is a postdoc at UIUC, which is the #1 condensed matter school. And he has done remarkable stuff in, I think, quantum Monte Carlo or DMRG, one of those two fields. I don't remember off the top of my head. Okay. Another professor is an assistant professor already at Beijing University. Okay. So you have to separate these people out. Okay. So when you are doing that, what happens is, in the end, who are the people who emerge at the top of the list? The people who had the best presentations, the people who had the best social skills, the people who were
more
able
human
to
than others.
Able to explain their stuff more clearly. So that's why these soft skills emerge in breaking that degeneracy. And it's very, very small and subtle, and it shows professionalism on your part to pay attention to those small details. So an example of that is, okay, I hope she is not listening to that podcast, but I went to Princeton for a conference, and I befriended this grad student who was from, I think, Santa Barbara and Yale. Like, she's a joint student of both those universities, and she didn't we were friends, but I can sense that she didn't quite rate me that much. Okay. And which is understandable. Like, she's a much better grad student than I am.
Wait, one second. Rate as in terms of academic credibility.
She didn't think I was like something special, or like she didn't think I was someone good or something. Okay. So whatever, we hung out for a while and exchanged ideas and talked. She talked about her research, and then I went back and I had told her some paper, some idea that she should look to, and I sent her an email. Okay, and then she responded to me saying that, I'm like, thank you for the source. Your email signature is so professional. Okay. And from then, like, her demeanor towards me completely changed. So it's like, there isn't much to your email signature, right? It's just my name. But it's written in a very neat format. It looks aesthetically pleasing. Things like that. And so that is one example. Another example is presentation, right? Presentation, there's two aspects to it. There's one aspect which is the visual, and one aspect is how clearly you're explaining. Okay, a lot of people have good presentations, but if we have to look at someone from the department, Lily Schaefer, she has one of the best presentations that I know. Like, just her presentations look beautiful, and you are just, whenever you watch her give a presentation, you're just immersed into the thing that she's saying. She works in solar stuff. I have not that much interest, but whenever she's talking, I am always paying attention. So my first APE, I made a really, really nice presentation. My research isn't any better, or I would probably say it's a slightly, it's probably straight middle compared to any other person who's giving the presentation for the first time. But once I was done giving that presentation, one of the professors, again, I'm not going to say any names, because what if someone asked them and they say, I don't remember saying that. But one of the professors said that, I really like the way you think. And one of the professors said that this is the best APE presentation that they have ever seen. So now, what was different about my presentation compared to hundreds of, tens of people who give? It was just, I chose a theme. All my fonts were consistent. It wasn't super, the slides weren't overcrowded. I went in a sequence. I introduced the topic. I presented what we're doing, just presented the information in the most clearest way I can. I told clearly, this is what we've accomplished. This is what I want to accomplish. I gave goals for the next year. So those are the small things that help, and they build up on each other.
Right.
So another example that I can give is, the election for graduate physics graduate student representative. Okay, when I had spent so that election happened in March in 2022.
Okay.
And I had spent my December winter vacation knowing that election would be coming up, and there would be a application period for awards,
All right.
and things like that. So like working on my resume, working on my website, email signature, and all these small things. Okay, and once so every candidate had to give like a statement or like something, and everyone said, okay, I've done this, I've done that, and so once I'm done with that, I also put down, if you like to see more information, please go to www.aymenshamoon.com. I mean, that's just a little bit of kick that tells everyone that, oh, this person is different.
Yeah.
Now notice, in any of this discussion, there's no question of skill.
Right.
All of these people are maybe better than me, or maybe they're the same as me, or but what's differentiating over 2 or 3 similar candidates for anything, for an award, for a position, is just the presentation skill of how you present yourself, and that's all there is to it.
Okay.
So that's so that is. What was the question again? I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that we start off with these tons of examples. But
what's interesting to me is that how you started with saying that you have to be exceptionally good. If not, if you're in the middle criteria, you have to develop those skills.
Yeah.
Because we do have counter examples for people who do not have these skills. For example, if you were talking about presentations and everything. So I remember, I think 2 years ago, I was attending some summer school, and Edward Witten was there.
Right.
And his presentation was just white sheet and black fonts,
right.
and it wasn't even completely filling the page. It was
right.
like one line, and
right.
that's it. And
not even in the middle of the page.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it gets you to think that, and because of that, I feel people don't know that these are the skills that you have to develop.
Right.
That's why they just focus on.
They're the exception to the rule.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why they just focus on being good at their work.
Right.
But like you said, that you can be as good as you like, but there are going to be degeneracies, and how do you distinguish?
Right.
And especially when, right now, there are a lot of grad students. Everyone, you see, they have PhDs in different fields and everything. But I feel back then, these things didn't matter as much.
Right.
So that's why I feel when you think about PhD, when you think about academics, you're not really concerned about developing those skills until it becomes a need.
Right. And it's not just the middle of the pack. Like, these people who are being hired, they were already in the top.
Exactly.
10%.
Yeah.
So you need, like, the way something like that presentation skill wouldn't have mattered if someone had one of the 6 candidates had won the Millennium Prize. Okay. So if you're like 1% of the 1%, then you don't have to care about these things. But else it's.
No, but I mean, even then, having these soft skills would not.
Yeah, of course.
So having such soft skill would only make, would only add to Witten's glory, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
It won't take something from it.
Totally.
He's a great physicist. How does he have a great pen? That won't happen. That won't happen. So, I mean, I understand the importance, but let's also try to dissect this even further. It's good that you gave a lot of examples, so we have kind of a lot of places to draw ideas from. But I want to first know, when you start a PhD, the thing that Prachi was asking, you literally have, these things sort of come to you naturally. And when I say naturally, what I mean is that there's one incident like this, for example, I was one of the one of the shortlisted candidates amongst those 7, and then I did not get selected. And then I saw their research. I was like, yeah, man, everyone's doing the same work as I am. Let's say I am that Harvard postdoc. I would be like, at least it would be like shocking for me. But then, these incidents sort of make you realize that you need some edge over the other to kind of, make your mark.
Yeah, and it's used as an example to despair someone else. For example, people would look at them and they're like, oh, this guy went to Harvard, did this research, and he still didn't get it. What chance do I have?
Yes.
Exactly.
It's like the hidden variables theory, right? Like there are hidden variables that you're not considering.
That's a good analogy. So people think that you're right. If the Harvard guy didn't get it, I stand no chance.
Right.
But then what they don't know is that, if someone who's analyzing these profiles and everyone's sort of the same in terms of their research, these soft skills matter. Anyway, the question was, when did you realize this? And like, was it a series of incidents that led to this, or was it a particular incident that sort of, made you think about, hey, these are the skills and I need them?
That's a deep question. So let me think. Okay, so I think the way my undergrad and my graduate school went was like, in my undergrad, I was very unfocused in the sense that I wanted to learn a lot of different things, and there wasn't any strategy or plan to it. Okay,
right.
So I, beginning of semester, I would be like, oh, this interesting class is being offered. Though this interesting class is being offered. Let me take this as well. Let me take this as well. I paid no attention to, can I handle all this schedule? What is the ultimate goal? Like, I want to do this research in 2 years, so I should start learning this. So there was no strategy to it. I was just bouncing around, and I barely squeezed by. Like, the minimum GPA to graduate, to be accepted in a physics PhD program is 3. So you need to have a 3. My GPA was 3.01.
Oh.
So just any of my B minuses, any of my B pluses have been B, I would be in a different career right now. So
that's interesting.
So once that is done, I looked into, once I was starting my PhD, I was like, enough is enough. Like, now I will make a clear plan. This is what I want to achieve. This is how I will achieve it. And it's very, very systemic. Like, I treat, you hear all sorts of analogies for physics. Some say it's an art. Some say it's like, I treat it like sports.
Okay.
A lot of times you hear sportsmen in a post-match interview, they talk about process. They say, we don't care about the result as long as the process is there. Okay.
Right.
So I started treating it exactly like I eat 3 meals a day. I sleep 8 hours. Every hour of my day is divided. Like, I know how many hours I do everything. Okay. Like, it's very, very meticulously designed and to maximize my productivity. Okay. And then like there's so much detail that I put my meeting with Pawan as his last meeting of the day, because in case if it runs over, I don't have
that extra.
Yeah, I get that extra time. Okay. And like in my field, your time with your advisor is the currency.
Is key. Yeah.
Is key. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I started doing that, then I was like, okay, I'm gonna be professional. I'm gonna be the person who makes a mark. Okay. So then I started like, I'm gonna have a website. I'm gonna have everything. So that's where it started. So this is having soft skills is just one small part of an overall attempt to build my overall profile. Like, I think all the way to like, okay, these are the kind of postdocs which get a assistant professor. So these are the skills that I need to start developing now.
That's
like, diversifying your interest, learning other subjects. Like at one point I was, there are 7 days in a week. So 1 day is for chores, 1 day is for learning some physics which is still in condensed matter. 1 day is for learning physics which is outside of condensed matter. So right now I'm re-watching Dr. Rati's lectures on quantum field theory too,
Okay.
which has nothing to do with my research, not gonna. But long term, I keep building that information. So that's the kind of detail, because I know I'm not a gifted physicist.
Okay.
Like I know that if I work the same as everyone else, I am probably gonna be like 30 or 40 percentile. Okay?
Right.
So in order to compete, I have to put more effort than anyone else. Like I have to outwork so I work 9 hours every day and I don't take a break. Like I don't have a rest day. So it's like 54 hours every week, which are like focused on working. So this is the kind of way I've built my entire physics PhD life. And the downside to this grind is that, at some point you have to start wondering whether it's all worth it or like, but that's or if you get rid of it, then what is your identity? Like your identity was being the best physicist from 11th grade. So then leaving that is very scary, because then you have to re-examine your entire life, like the decisions you make. But within that paradigm where like I want to be the best physicist I can, everything makes sense, everything is logical, everything is organized, everything is I wanted to collaborate with this professor from Rice, so I had added him to my committee, and this was like I did this like sophomore year, second year. So like a collaboration that went into effect 3 years later. I had planned it all the way then, and I leave a blank spot in my committee just in case I meet an even bigger professor who I wouldn't want to. So all of this is like very meticulously planned.
So yeah, so what I've picked up from that is that planning is important. Of course, like you said, I mean, different people process information differently. Obviously, someone physics comes extremely naturally, and there can be someone on the opposite side of the spectrum that they have to. And I also consider myself to somewhere floating in the middle, depending on the time of the year, I think. But yeah, so managing your time, I think, is...
And I feel that's also very hard acceptance to make for yourself, that... Because, I mean, I feel most people, especially in grad school... So, like, we've been to 2 grad schools now, and we know how grad students are, how do they behave. And the more you learn about your subject, you realize that the people who know a lot are the ones who are the most humble people. So saying things like, that I need to put more effort to be where people just naturally are, I feel that's a very hard acceptance, and most grad students
fail to
accept that. And I mean, I feel it comes at a very later stage in their lives that they realize that, accepting that you may not be the best will at least give you a sense of direction to move towards being the best.
I think when I was coming here, I was thinking about something, and I was like thinking that if Pawan told me tomorrow that, Aymen, you're doing such a great job, you're so good at physics, it would make no difference to me. Because I know exactly where I am. Okay, so I know what I know. Like, and if someone says, Aymen, you absolutely suck, you don't know any physics, it would still make no difference to me.
I know, man.
I know exactly in like how much I know and what the heights are, and like in everyone in between. Like I work with
that's very hard. It comes with experience.
Yeah. So I have this essay that I've written, and I'm gonna post it once I've published my first paper. And the essay starts with that every physicist lives with the contradictions inside themselves. That they have to believe that they are the smartest man alive and also the dumbest man alive.
Yeah.
Because it's like the entire physics is like trying to reconcile, because what we do is very, very hard. Like it's conceptually, like if you try to explain
Have you tried explaining it to your parents?
Yes, I made a presentation
Oh my goodness.
to explain to and they understand superconductivity a little bit.
Okay, that's good.
So
that's good.
it's a, like
How did they even agree to watch your presentation? Is my first question.
I mean, they're
They're curious.
they're curious. They want to understand.
Yeah, I mean
like
mine too, but
my
like
dad
sometimes
keeps asking me like, "तुमने कुछ नया banaya? Like, did you find anything new?" I was like, "Well, yeah, like I guess I have." It's like, "समझाओ मुझे, like explain it to me." So I'm like, "How do I explain that the surface of the wild semi-metal has superconductivity in the surface but not in the bulk?" And that's my paper. Like that's just so many levels of abstractions. Like, so like I talk to like I have like in my, you guys know that I come from a family of liberal arts people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my cousins are like they're artists and they're filmmakers, and I tried explaining quantum mechanics and relativity to them, and they were like, "Bro, what the fuck? What are you saying, bro? This is like, bro." Yeah, but like they didn't, like I don't know if they captured it, but they were like blown away by. So what we do is trying to push the boundaries of something which is so non-intuitive, okay? And so that you have to be really smart to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But also, you know that what you are doing, there is a guy who's 10 years younger than you, 16, who's doing it with his left eye closed. So you can't think of yourself as smart.
Right.
So it's like keeping those contradictions together in your mind. And if a physicist seems very confident, these two ideas is embedded in every physicist. They are there.
Yeah.
So if a person seems very confident, then you know that inside they are hiding the other part where they're not confident. And if there was a physicist who seems not confident, then you know they're hiding. But these two portions are there in every person.
That's true. Very true.
The other day, Prachi and I were actually on a panel for this this event that has been going on in U of H, and the panel had us, but the students who were attending this panel were senior undergrads who were willing to apply to grad school. Anyway, the panel was about our journey through first year, second year, since we had sort of just. Even though we did not come out of undergrad, but like we were expected to explain them how our first, second year was, what is research about, how to find advisor, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but in the end of the conversation, we had one professor from the department. He was like, so every physicist I know has, at least all the physicists I know have this one thing in common. So this was after the workshop. The context was that, hey, you can still contact them via email or whatever, and they will help you. The panelists will help you. So the professor was like, all the physicists I've met have this thing in common, is that they like to explain things. It was so funny.
I understand, because it's like, they wish that they had someone to explain it to them when they were in the same situation.
Exactly.
Oh my God, yes.
Exactly. So even when I'm teaching, my classes in the labs that I teach, the last time I take whatever the last lecture, I tell them, hey, if you want any advice, life, career, physics, everything, I'm happy to explain. So that explanation factor, I think, is there with everyone.
That's so true.
Yeah. Okay. So again, coming back, not losing track, we'll try to sort of gather these skills throughout this conversation. So one thing that I kind of immediately picked up on was managing your time. And Prachi and I are firm believers that time is literally currency. Sort of, I was not, I did not believe that. Prachi kind of, made me believe it, made me see all of it. And then I started believing. And I sort of, I do my best to manage my time as efficiently as possible. So that's one. Managing time is one thing. You gave another example, let's say, about something as small as building your website. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how does building a website, or website basically reflects, just having a platform to showcase your work and this is not just PhD students, an undergraduate student can have a website if they're doing any research, or even talk about the courses that they're taking, something like that. What's the importance of that?
Building a website specifically, I think it just reflects a sort of professionalism on your part. Like it's just that, like when someone opens your website and they see whatever your research is being done explained in a very accessible way, there's a picture of you smiling, they're like, this person seems like we can hire them. Like they put in enough, like if I look at it abstractly, it's like I see this is the person who has they're not going to think, oh, this is a person who has a website, that's why I should hire them. They're like, this person just seems a little bit more polished, more put together, more out there than compared to others. So that's just
So like an organized platform to showcase your work. Can we call it that? Okay.
So it's just part of it's part of your overall demeanor to look more professional.
Also, I feel it works in two folds. So website showcases your platform and everything, but it also showcases, so everyone knows having a website and maintaining a website is hard work. Initially you have to put a lot of work to think what you want to put. And then if you have, for example, my website has my book blog where I keep I don't just update the books that I'm reading, but I also keep updating the quotes that I find in the book that are interesting to me.
I see.
So I feel that in itself is hard work. And someone looks at that and they feel that, apart from doing everything that is there on their resume, they're also doing this.
Yeah.
So that tells the viewer that, okay, they are putting effort in things that they believe in. So they will put effort if we hire them.
Also, most of the time when someone is hiring you, they're hiring someone they're going to be meeting a lot, hanging out. And that just shows, like, if you put some extra skills on there, just shows that, oh, this person is interesting. They're not going to be like, oh, come to work, talk physics, go home kind of person. They have a personality outside of this. Like, I think Dr. Rati dances. I think Dr. Pawan has a dancing thing. A lot of professors have photography. They all put that. There's like this one little section, other stuff, activities.
If you want to see
it helps you connect with that person on another level. Another thing that I feel also happens is, and this is related to psychology a little bit, that if you're reading someone's resume, right, you're reading, just scrolling through it, and then you see there's a website, and then you click on it. When you click on it, you go through, you have other links, you have other hyperlinks. So your mind thinks that if I'm putting extra effort in looking that person, I might as well just hire it.
Maybe.
That's true. You want to throw them in the rabbit hole. You want to make
them because that's true. That's proven. So there was an example, a study was conducted. So 2 groups were taken, right? And they were given an IKEA desk.
Right.
Okay. One group was given the IKEA desk which was made, and one group was asked to build that desk.
Okay.
After that, both groups were individually asked how would they price that desk. So the people who built the desk gave a higher price because they put an effort in it.
Right.
And they were identical desks. So oftentimes it happens that when you're putting in more effort, you think that, you might as well just...
You assign more value to it.
Exactly, precisely.
You assign more value to it. Yeah. Okay. So that's
social hack your way to a job.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Yeah, I mean
dangle a chain in front of their eyes, like hire me. Like you show your resume, it flashes, showing them the mom's picture for like 0.01 seconds, so they associate it more
like
positively.
a cute dog
picture. like what did I just say?
See, exactly. So the same thing happens.
Just prime them.
The same thing happens when you're on Tinder. You see a guy, if you have a lot of people, if you're looking, for example, if you're looking at a girl and if she has a dog, or if you're looking at a guy, if he has a dog, you're more likely to swipe right.
Yeah.
That dog is cute. I like cute things. This is cute thing associated with this girl. Is this girl also cute? Time to ponder.
more mathematics done in 1 minute than we will do in our entire career.
Just imagining someone opens a resume and you know how they have a loading screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Instead
yeah.
of that, there's just a picture of Albert Einstein and then it just loads and then it's your resume.
Yeah. Yes. That's see. I mean, these
See,
are. These
I
are,
would
these
totally hire that guy.
I would go crazy.
Yeah,
Like, I
if
would, like-
they
I would
have
be like-
a Einstein rotating with his tongue out instead of the
Instead
loading
of a-
sign, I would totally like.
I
go
would
ahead.
think that if someone's paying attention to this much detail, he'd change the loading page of his website or video or whatever.
But see, that can work other way also. They will think that if they're
mean, you can get
only
fooled
spending,
also.
if they're only spending time on this, they're not even doing the research.
So that's the thing, right? You have to be
It was-
good and plus.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
You can't be
exactly.
bad and
Yeah. Oh, so that's actually a very interesting point. Soft skills actually benefit you when you're already good
Yeah.
at your,
It's
or like you do your work
the
with
cherry
integrity.
on the cake. If you don't have a cake and just have a cherry, then
Then
it
it's
doesn't
just
make
a cherry.
sense.
it's just a fruit there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, the other example, let's talk about it so that we can sort of draw more examples. You talked about having good presentation skills, and this is like I'm talking about like tangible presentations, like the ones that you see, not just
The visual.
Right.
I mean, there are comes along body language, intonation. We don't want to get into the details of this,
Right.
but presentation skills was something in order to impress a committee or like just again a good platform to showcase what you have done.
I think out of all of these skills that I talked about, presentation skills are the most difficult because
Okay.
there's a lot of calculus that goes behind giving a good presentation. Like so let's keep visuals aside, like how your presentation actually looks, colors and themes and all that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like talking. So, and I've seen people who are good at presentations fail. Like Pawan gives pretty good presentations, but I've seen him run out of time.
Right.
Okay, so
I have seen him run out of time too.
right, so it's okay. You have this much information to convey, and then there's two variables: how much time you have, and you have to assume a minimal level of information that a audience have.
Mhm.
Okay,
Right.
and then the third is the speed that you're gonna walk through. Okay, and if you get any one of those three variables wrong, your presentation is gonna be a bust. Okay, if you assume that your audience knew too much, you've lost the audience already. If you assume, if you are unable to figure out how much detail to go into, you run out of time. Okay, so it's a difficult skill to master, and I feel like I was very bad at giving presentations. So the thing is, I hadn't given a presentation till grad school. Like in my undergrad, I'd never had to give a presentation. So I only started like 2 years ago, and my first APS presentation was pretty bad.
Okay.
But I think
Oh, you presented at one of the conferences?
yeah,
Okay.
APS, the main one in March.
Okay, March
That
meeting.
was
okay.
in 2021 or 2022, last year, I think. Yeah. So those are the three things that you have to factor, and keeping that into account, that is a hard job to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's true. And so one more thing that I wanted to talk about was that, when you're starting your grad school, why is that people don't talk about developing those skills explicitly? Do you think there's some notion of, because I feel that, people don't talk about, let's just say, presentation skills, or how you're dressing up in the presentation, if you're looking confident and everything. I feel the reason they don't talk about this is because they feel this is more of a corporate thing than an academic thing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean,
Money is involved everywhere.
it's just business these days.
I don't think so. The thing is, one of the thing is that most people aren't good at it. Like I've seen very few professors be good at it, very few grad students be good at it. And the other thing is that it's not even if they're good at it, they're not consciously good at it. Like, I don't know if Lily has ever thought about like, oh, I need my presentation to be good so that my soft skills are important and I become more hireable. I think she's just good at it because she's likes to communicate clearly and likes to make her presentations pretty. So yeah,
I think that's true.
That's it.
Because
they're
see,
not conscious about all
yeah,
these things.
and that's understandable, because when you're in academics, especially when you're in physics, you're spending a lot of your time developing the skills that are going to help in your research, in your work, in your classes. And that skills take a lot of time.
Right.
Like, emphasis on the lot. It takes years and years, and you're, giving exams, you're studying for stuff, and then you're doing your research. So a lot of your time, in fact, I would say that 95% of your time will go in developing those skills.
Right.
So all those people who are good at giving presentations, in spite of being also good at their research skills and everything, is because it naturally comes to them.
Yeah.
Because if you put someone in most cases you're doing self-study, right? So if you're put in isolation and you're asked to develop skills, if you have to work on your math skills, if you have to study physics for 95% of your time, you won't have time to develop those skills that are also required.
Right.
And be good at it.
And also there's it reminded me of a thing that I think. So there's also conformity.
Okay.
And
what do you mean? Can you explain?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
So an example that comes to mind, and she's gonna be mad at me, but Amrita's lab presentations, they didn't used to be very good in terms of like visual. Okay. So I told her, and we had a bit of a fight about it, that she should make her presentations better.
Okay.
And she told me like her PI's presentations are like this, all her lab mates presentations are like this, so why, like, I will stick out. Okay, like if
she was afraid of sticking out.
Yeah,
okay.
Like I will stick out if I did transitions and like colorful, when all her like everyone else is making bland latex presentations which suck. Latex presentations are the most ugliest looking things I've ever seen. Okay, so her lab wasn't making latex presentations. That was a aside. But like they were just like, they weren't bad looking. They were just bland. They weren't popping out. So eventually, like, she caved in and she made a good presentation. And like she got compliments from her PI that her presentation looked very good. So that could be one of the reasons that people are not. People don't want to rock the board.
Right.
Like they're afraid that if they break the degeneracy, they might be the lower level energy
than the higher.
Than the higher level energy.
No, that's very interesting. It often happens also to a lot of women in the field. So a lot of women who are who like to dress up and everything, when they are working in academics, they have this notion that if they don't dress up in a certain way, they will be considered not knowledgeable. And then that sense makes them hide their true identity.
Right. So they look more, and that's if
more bland, if you would say.
Yeah, like if you
more
don't
bland.
No, see, it's nothing wrong in looking that way if that's your choice.
Yeah,
if you're choosing to look a certain way, then that becomes a problem.
Like if you look very put together, people might think that is this person even serious? Like, is this a
exactly
And that's a uniquely women problem.
Yes.
Like
so you have to be really good to be able to dress up the way you want.
If someone shows up in a suit, no one is going to think that, oh, is that person a serious physicist, quote unquote.
Yeah, that's
the business
true.
department is across the road.
That's extremely true. So if you and that's why when you have women competing with men in the same field, you automatically know that if she's dressing the way she wants, and is still on the same level as those other men, then she must be better than those, because she had to, overcome all those prejudices and be at that level.
Right. Like Dr. Rati is always so put together.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah. All right. So coming back to talking about more of these skills, one thing, again, drawing from one of the examples that you had, although it was a spin-off of sort of planning your committee and having someone on the committee who could be your potential collaborator. So that was a smart move. But adding to that, how much is networking important? Like how do you do that?
Right. So one of the things that I hear, and this is something I have a gripe with, is like they're like, oh, networking is everything. You get the best job your job goes to the person with networking. And people say that in a negative connotation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But networking is an essential physics skill.
Yeah.
Like that is, people think that idea of a lone genius sitting in a secluded room, that's just not.
That's far from reality.
Far from, like even someone who, like Einstein, right? He had hundreds of exchanges of letters between all his, the Solvay conference people, and I was on this way, I expected this question, so I was thinking about what life would be like if Newton and Leibniz were in this age, and like one of them had put their paper on archive first, like how quickly we probably would have gotten calculus much faster.
Right.
Because they would have said, oh, this guy's working on the same stuff, let me email him, then they would have worked together. So this idea,
I see. Okay.
Like this, in the beginning of this podcast, I talked about, I view physics as a sport. Physics is actually a team sport.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is, building collaborations is a very, very important, very, very important skill to a physicist, and it's helps you branch out. So like I have like distilled down by asking different people like what would make them collaborate with me, or not in the direct sense, but I asked, so are you guys aware, know what limiting agent is in a chemistry reaction? So it's that the reaction takes some quantity of this and some quantity of that, but whatever finishes first is the limiting reaction.
Agent, yeah.
Okay. So I asked Pawan, what would he have that would improve his productivity? So, publishing a paper takes time, takes ideas, takes grad students. So he said, for me, it's time. Okay. So Pawan is right now working as best as he can. Like if you give him 10 more funding and more grad students, it won't be able to increase his productivity.
Right.
Okay. So you ask a postdoc that, and he would say, or they would say, it would be a grad students, because a postdoc, a late postdoc, has ideas, but because they're not in a tenured position. So that is the king I identified, and I was like, okay, all of these professors, or very, very early professors, or very, very late postdocs, have a lot of ideas about their field, but they're not able to execute them because they. So if that is the most ripe person who you can contact, and they will give you a project. Okay. The other way is that you bring up idea to a professor.
Wait, okay, pause. Very early professors, I'm trying to sort of make it clear for our listeners.
Right.
Early professors are the ones who have sort of this ideal trajectory, undergrad, PhD, postdoc, and then straight into their professors, maybe in their mid-30s or something.
Yeah, early professors who just got assistant professorships or something like that, who just got hired And late postdocs
late
are like
postdocs, yeah.
third, fourth year postdocs.
Right. So both of these sort of sections are good if you want to, work on a project.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah. If you are a grad student,
very good advice.
If you are a grad student who's looking to, okay, I want to work on this field. Okay, let's say I want to work in high temperature superconductivity, and I want to work with Dr. Kivelson.
Okay.
Dr. Kivelson already has a bunch of grad students at, I think he's at Harvard or Stanford, one of those places, okay? So you email him, he doesn't know you, he doesn't know your credentials, you might be a possible waste of time. What did we establish earlier? That to a professor, time is their most valuable resource, okay? So unless you have a backing of some other professor, some friend of Dr. Kivelson recommends that this is a good grad student, can he work with you? If you are just cold calling an email, he will not, unless you bring him an idea, okay? And that idea is good enough that it can beat out his current ideas or something that both of you can develop together. If you already bring him an idea, he knows that you're good. Right. So but let's say I want to work in high temperature superconductivity. I have no idea about that field. Okay. So I can't give him an idea. What would I do? I would look up Dr. Kivelson's postdocs. I will email them. I will introduce myself. A postdoc is desperate for grad students to work with because they have a lot of idea. They want to increase the publication rate. So those are the people who are ripe for, and maybe once so that's how you get into a new field, is by targeting the postdocs.
Postdocs, and preferably those who have spent like 3-4 years into the field. So
so they have connections.
They have networks, connections. They have the skills, and they have the ideas to guide you on a project.
Right. So a more concrete example is like I'm working with this the professor the grad student postdoc I was talking about, who was Dr. Sachdev's. Her name is Zushi Lu. Okay, she works in spin liquids. So I emailed her, she came to interview, I emailed her I want to work, and we're working on a project together. Now she has become an assistant professor at Georgia Tech, and she's looking for a postdoc. So maybe, maybe hopefully, maybe she'll hire me, but if I prove myself worthy, I automatically have a leg up against any other people who will apply to her because we work together.
Right. So that's very interesting. So that's a very sharp statement. If you are towards the end of your PhD and you've decided to stay in academia, if both those ifs are satisfied, then try to connect with a lot of postdocs, because these are the guys who are upcoming professors, and they can hire you as their postdoc. That's very interesting. Okay. So let's also try to complicate the problem even further. Let's add personality traits into this. So why I ask this, because our listeners are like a broad spectrum. People come from different backgrounds, have different personalities. So for example, someone like me, I'm an extrovert. I feel very okay and very natural to sort of, if I'm at a bar or like I'm at a conference or anywhere where I see fellow physicists around who may or may not be of the same field, I'm saying I'll put in that extra effort to talk to them, but it comes very naturally. And I'll just, sort of engage in a conversation, get their emails and everything, and then start this sort of correspondence with them to do it. But on the other hand, if someone like Prachi...
I can't. I need a social battery to function properly in a social circle. So
battery, I've heard that for the first time.
Yeah, I need it.
Introverts use that word a lot.
I need it. Okay. I mean, see, I will talk to someone if I find their thoughts interesting, but I cannot have vain conversations. That's something that
how are you?
Yeah, I cannot have that.
Small talk.
Yeah, but I would like to know about their research, and then if I find that interesting, then I will keep talking to them, then, share correspondence and everything. But I cannot have those, just go to them and ask about the weather. That's something that I just cannot do.
So
so the question essentially is that is there like a common way of let's say these extreme sort of personalities, and then there's of course like a spectrum of different types of personalities, but is there like a common set of algorithm to maybe make connections or networking? Of course, if there's some pressure that, hey, my PhD is ending, I have to get a postdoc, then people might send cold emails and stuff. But generally, how do
these sort of conversations or like these networking, for me at least, it rarely happens in a social situation.
Okay.
All of this networking happens over email.
Okay.
Like me and Zushi have never. Well, we say one sentence to each other, hey, how are you? She says, hey, how are you? And then we talk about work, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're an introvert, I'm going to go with an assumption that you feel at least comfortable talking about physics with other people, even if you're not. If you don't feel talking about physics, then I don't know what to say. But like, all of this conversation of reaching out, talking to people happens over email. It happens. It's not chit chat. It's not how are you. It's like very firmly in the range of physics.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's just the initial act of reaching out, which is something an introvert would have to overcome. But that is
Okay.
So it's not like a mixer.
Right.
Where you're chatting up someone,
Right.
and you're talking about business, and it's very professional.
Right.
In that way.
Okay. So the key is that networking can also happen, because sometimes people have this notion that networking is usually you accidentally meet someone.
Yeah.
That's a big confusion.
Yeah. So you're very right. So networking is not, when people think networking, they think, okay, going to a professor, hey professor, how are you? How's it going?
Yeah.
You know, there probably is a way to do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been good at it, so I don't know. I've seen people who are, become like sons and daughters to the advisors,
Okay.
because they're like, you're sharing, boyfriend problems and all of those things. I don't know how they do that. I've never been good at it. That
You should start talking to your advisor more.
I can't even imagine. My girlfriend broke up with me. He's like. So about wild semi-marriage.
This would exactly be the
For
reaction.
those who know who your advisor is, they will find it extremely funny.
But I have more questions about knowing your advisor. But yeah, let's come back to this.
What was I talking about?
So you were saying that it's not necessary to go and have a chat.
Yeah, it's more when networking is, these are my skills. This is what you should know. The other type of networking is, which is sort of similar to that, is getting a person to know you.
Right.
And if you are a young grad student, you can build that up. So you introduce yourself and you tell them about, ask a couple of questions and, I'm interested in this, your take on it. And if it's smart enough, then that person will remember you a little bit. And then eventually when you apply down the line, they'll be like, oh yeah, what was his name again? I remember this guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So people think that networking means, hey, hi, how are you? You talk about your love life, and then within that same conversation, you ask for a postdoc. That sort of networking is it's a long game, basically.
Okay.
And the thing is, there are so many professors. I don't know how to target an individual professor and do that like over the time. Like what is this environment where you are coming across a professor regularly, where they're not in your university and they're not. So it's one of those.
I see. So even if someone is an introvert, they can definitely send out emails.
Yeah.
And then hidden in that is how you present your email, which you sort of touched upon earlier, that a nice signature can do the job. Also, presenting your ideas clearly on that email can do the job.
This, like, when I send the email, it's very clearly like first line is hello dash. I'm writing you this email because I would like to this. so like whatever I want to do is in the first line, and then I clearly there's no for me at least, there's not many blemishes. Like there's not very thank you for your generosity. There's no, it's like very straightforward and cold.
Right.
So that's how.
And I
know,
think it should be that.
That's how I know I'm ready to be a professor. My emails are very cold, short, and my website hasn't been updated in 3 years.
That's true. I mean, most of the emails that I've got, I'm telling you, this is like one of the most, had conversation, or like the most common conversation amongst grad students and undergrads. As soon as they get a mail from their professor, they ask their fellow colleagues, students that, hey, does he seem angry? Like, what does this even mean? Like, did I say something wrong? But essentially, they, like you said, time is a resource. They're very...
So one of my undergrad advisors, who was a nuclear physics guy, okay? And I asked him, like, why are professors so bad at responding to emails? And he had this computer, and he turned it around, and it was like literally ding, 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 ding. He got like 300 emails in the last 1 hour.
Oh my God.
Right? So it's like...
they have no option but to be short.
Whatever you're emailing, it has to be, whatever you want, it has to be in the subject.
Right.
You know, it can't be like a request for help or like, like, you know, like some vague thing, because they're like, whatever. It has to be like need break. You know? Paper not done. About to kill myself. Arjun, yeah.
Man, that's funny. Request for help. So funny.
You know, it has to be very clear.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, it varies from professor. Like, you know, if you are a person that Pawan doesn't know, then you need to be that, like. But for us, like grad students, he will reply us because he knows, you know, they're not bothering me about something unimportant.
So let's talk about this fundamental things. We've had a previous guest, Bikash, obviously you know him.
Yeah.
He said something very interesting, although in that conversation we were unable to talk to him about that. But he mentioned how your advisor should first be a human and should understand your problems. So you've been drawing a couple of instances from your advisor. You've been you've been analyzing his skills and his knowledge apart from physics has also kind of helped you build your own skills, and not just physics but other skills. So how important do you think that is? So why I asked this question is that for me, sometimes it's very hard for me to explain other folks that I always emphasize on knowing my advisor at the very bare human level. Like, I would want to first understand if he and I are sort of going through similar problems, and then I can sort of be transparent with him about all other aspects.
I think one of the things that makes a lot of sense if you look at it through your prism is that you look at your graduating class. Okay, most of people who are in physics are, okay, I hope that's not controversial, but they're on some sort of autism spectrum. Okay, they're socially awkward, mostly introverted. Okay, few of these people who struggle to hold conversation with their fellow graduate students are going to go on to become advisors, and suddenly now they are their parent, they're their therapist. Okay, so this is not a thing they're equipped for. Okay, but suddenly you have been thinking about your own benefit all the way till postdoc, right? You're thinking, oh, how can I make my... Now suddenly you are responsible for 5-6 lives. Okay, their career is in your hand. If you don't like that person, if you get a bad letter of recommendation from your advisor, no matter how good your other 2 letter of recommendations is, no matter how good your research is, you're doomed. Okay? You won't get a good job. Now, so that's if you look at it through that prism, everything makes a lot of sense, right? Like, I look at Pawan, and he's an amazing advisor. Okay.
Mhm.
But he's like, socially shy. He doesn't share any of his personal life. Okay.
Right.
He doesn't, if you share any of your personal life, he doesn't he's not very comfortable talking about it. He keeps it very professional. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And, a person might think what is this weird guy? Right. But if you think about it, Pawan probably in his graduate class, he was probably a shy guy. Okay. He was good at physics. He wasn't very social. That's the idea that I get. Okay. And if you start treating advisors like humans, then everything makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Okay. So picking a good advisor is the most important skill in a PhD. That is the most essential decision that you're gonna make. Your interest in a subject, okay, all of that stuff, most of physics is interesting. You'll eventually develop some interest. If not, you can always work in a parallel
Yeah. You can.
thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was one of the most essential skills, and I feel that's a mistake. People complain a lot about their advisors, but I feel that is on the person in a certain way.
Right.
A lot of times it is kind of like relationships where there are red flags and they ignore it, and those red flags eventually become fatal into a person's career.
Right.
And that's
And then, I mean, switching at a very later stage for your PhD is again, something that is rare and almost frowned upon a lot of times.
And
That
more
is
than frowned upon, it's you have to restart
Yeah.
basically your PhD,
Yeah.
but with less time this time.
Right. The final segment is, Aymen, I want to, because the fact that you were born in Saudi, went to India for high school in Lucknow, and then you're here, you've switched universities, so I feel you sort of have ideas about academia and different aspects of the world. So maybe if you can, now this question particularly relates to listeners from different parts of the world. My question is, do these skills sort of are these skills different geographically, or do you have to spend some time understanding how to translate each and everything? I mean, I'm sure some of them will translate as it is, but is something that you want to add or subtract for different geographic locations?
I wouldn't say I have an idea, because I left India when I was 18, so I don't have an idea of how academia works in India. I only know about the US.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
But I feel it's different to most. It's different to different places.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's why I asked this question, because when I was thinking about India, I literally thought about a PhD student who has probably a JRF scholarship and they're working. Their money is sort of coming from the government. What else can they do? However, kissing ass is something that people look forward to in India, and people don't talk about it. However, I'm not a fan. I hate it.
I've only
but
seen
still.
a little bit, and so my aunt is an assistant professor in chemistry at Jamia,
Okay.
and when she was a postdoc, she used to help her advisor with her groceries and stuff like that, and I was
Right.
See, this is what I was talking about.
So that was, but I don't have but I've talked to people who are from IITs, and they, professors, and they tell me that academia works in those IITs the same as in US. So I honestly am not the right person to ask, because my academic experience is Illinois and Houston,
UH.
and those are the two things that I know.
When you say that, it reminds me of a story. Remember, we knew one of our professors back in undergrad in India, whose advisor made her do all sorts of
great
random
papers
stuff.
and everything. Yeah, and see,
Not just great papers. Remember, this advisor's son was doing a degree.
Personal stuff, basically.
Yeah, personal stuff.
But I feel that's anywhere you go. I mean, even in universities in US, you will find someone who's exploiting their grad students.
But if that person is caught, that person will be like kicked out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But would that happen in India?
Yeah. I mean, on papers, yes. But again, you never
but
know
not
what this
even
person...
in US. How are you so sure? Like, I know examples
I
that
think-
person have been caught and no action has been taken.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Because see,
I would think that's a very, very big ethical
it is. It for
faux pas
sure is.
at
And you
least it
need to have a strong moral compass, inside you as a person who's leading your department to make sure that such a person does not exist. But this problem is extremely deeply rooted. What happens is like you have to, it's human nature. We as humans are born to survive. So as long as something happens to yourself, the first thing that you do is save yourself, right? So anything that becomes a threat to your department or to your let's say reputation, the first thing that you do is save yourself. And even if sometimes it does happen, like in order to save yourself, you often save and do something which is unethical. And this is just like the truth of life.
Yeah, maybe.
So yeah, wherever you go, these sort of things will happen.
Okay, so we'll probably dedicate another episode talking about this dark side of things. But yeah, okay.
Yeah. So at the end of our podcast, we have a few questions that we always ask our guests.
Okay.
So the first question is, looking back over all these years, if you could, is there anything you would like to change in your life?
Yeah, I just have one big regret I wish I had become serious about academia probably 2 or 3 years earlier.
Okay.
Like, I feel like I leave UIUC with a lot of friends, but professionally, I don't have any good connections. Most of the physics that I learned outside after I was graduated. So that's the big regret that I have in life in general, that I wish I had gotten my life together, gotten myself more organized. And like, I don't know why it didn't happen, because I was surrounded by people who were organized. And like, I remember there was this friend of mine, Orlando Melchor, I don't know where he is now. His entire thing was that he was great at guessing questions on the exam. Like, he would somehow know the psychology of the professor and look at his past exams, and he would be like, yeah, something like this would be on the exam, and he would like give you questions. So they were like people like these who were like really good at guessing, and I was still like, yeah, I know this material a little bit, I'll look at it. Like, I was just not, I don't know why I didn't pull myself together like a couple of years earlier. So yeah.
Okay.
And what advice would you give to your younger self?
What advice would I give to my younger self? I don't want to freak him out. I wouldn't. I wouldn't give any advice. I think I'm pretty okay with. Like, there isn't any advice that would change anything. Because if I would listen to myself speak now, it's like, can you please like not? Like, can you
stop
I would be
acting
like,
woke?
I know what I'm doing, okay? Just like, okay. And I would be telling you, you don't. I would not listen to myself. I was like, you should do this. I was like, you're just sounding just like someone else. I don't believe this at all.
And lastly, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
What is the best piece of advice that I've ever received? I don't know if it was. It's you. If you don't give up, you will succeed.
If you don't give up, you will
succeed.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
if you, any person will end up at the top of physics, but they'll have to keep doing postdoc for 8-10 years.
Mm-hmm.
if you don't give up, you will succeed. There's no way that won't work out. Like I know this one professor who's now at Northwestern.
Okay.
No, he's a professor at Northwestern. Northwestern is a pretty good.
Yeah.
He did postdoc for 9 years. He was a postdoc for 9 years.
Whoa.
Wow.
Right. Like when I will be 30, I'm 29 now. When I will be 35 and I will still be working like a $50,000 postdoc job, I don't know if I have it in me to keep going and to explain to my family that I could be earning $200,000 at a bank in Wall Street doing data analysis, but I am choosing to for this dream that may or may not happen.
Interesting.
So if you believe that this is the only thing that you want to do, then you will suffer, but you will reach where you want to go.
Okay.
But it is okay to not want that.
Yeah.
There's no it is
Yeah.
very much okay to decide to do something else, earn a lot of money, be comfortable, and there are probably other fields which will probably give you as much satisfaction as physics does. Like you don't have to be. Our world is shaped by physicists. Everyone around us is a physicist, so we think this is the only possibility, but that is not true. Like you can do other things and be happy.
That's a very profound advice. Thank you, Aymen, for doing this.
No problem. Thank you guys for having me over.
Thanks, Simon.
All right. So when is the sequel?